Hi, everyone. It's been a while. I've missed my Mega family, of course. I've seen some of you here and there online, etc. Virtual things, blah, blah, blah. It's not quite the same as being there in person and seeing you all and interacting in person, having a laugh about this and that and getting serious about other stuff. So that's what we've been doing as usual. But the themes are slightly different this year. As usual, we switch and change and we bring new stuff in and we bring old stuff back, of course. So we'll be mixing and matching very freely. Let's go through some of the contents, shall we? The course is going to be called Essentials and Existentials, from day one to eternity. So what do I mean by all that? Well, I was asked by Iran to revisit some of the basics of Shiatsu. For example, pressure, posture, presence, all these kind of basic components of how we do Shiatsu. And recently it's come to my attention that that's something that a lot of people need to look at, including myself, of course, but also students who've been doing Shiatsu for a while or people who are just learning, and to reinforce some of the basic stuff that's very, very simple, but not necessarily easy to grasp or keep in mind and keep in body. We have to embody these things, right? So it'll be a mixture of those kind of things and what I call existentials. So from day one means the basics, and eternity means the stuff that keeps us going, the stuff that reminds us that the Shiatsu is all about this eternal being, which is inside us and outside us, and we're part of it, the eternal soul, etc., our eternal life. And that, for me, is what Shiatsu is all about, and that's what we'll be exploring in our afternoon session. So mornings will be essentials, afternoons will be existentials, if you see what I mean. So there'll be a pre-session, a break, and then a post-session, and that's the way we'll divide things up. We'll also be kicking off every single day. There's 4 days planned here. You do as you wish. Hopefully some of you will be with me all 4 days. That'll be great. You get the most out of it that way, of course. We'll start with what we call Meridian Families Qigong. It's a standing Qigong. It's something that came through a dream almost 2 years ago now for the Meridian families. And there's 4 exercises, starting with relatively easy and getting slightly more difficult as we go through. But you'll get the hang of it. It's nothing difficult or complex. They're very simple. Day one will be Shiatsu on the back. We'll be looking at the dynamics of the mother hand principle and how we use that in the most subtle and powerful way possible. And this is going back to the early years of studying with Suzuki and how he drilled that into us. And I noticed that not a lot of people are aware of it even, and hardly anybody uses it. And it's the actual centerpiece, the center point of Suzuki's Shiatsu, my Shiatsu, of course, even though it doesn't look like much. It's pretty amazing stuff. In the afternoon, we'll be doing something called Top 10 Essential Points for Everyday Life. And these are my favorite 10 points, which have the widest possible range of functions. And we'll put them into a kind of treatment so that it'll flow as a root treatment. Now, we'll talk about what root treatments mean as and when we get there. Great concept, really useful for doing treatments with. Day 2, same Qigong. We'll be looking at Shiatsu in the Hara, and I've called this light heaviness. How do we combine lightness with heaviness, but give this deep, but pleasant and deep acting pressure for the Hara? How do we do that? Well, I've got a way of doing it, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. I will spend a lot of time with doing that, and that'll be after the Meridian Families Qigong, of course. And in the afternoon, after the break, we'll do this thing called the Lingong. We'll do that every day. The Lingong is a Qigong form, which I taught myself, I channeled, God knows what, just before Christmas. It's all to do with the Ling, the universal soul, the numinous, which we call Ling. Japanese call it Rei. You might have heard of that, Reiki. 6 exercises for the Ling, sitting. You can do them standing, but we'll do them sitting. And then something which is called an extraordinary treatment. And this treatment will be built entirely of extraordinary points. Some of them are classical, traditional ones, and some of them are ones that I've found or kind of imported from here or there. And that, again, will be a kind of a root treatment, which you can use for anything you like to bring the reservoir of energy of the body into play, activate, etc., etc. So again, we'll talk about what root treatments are as and when we begin this study together. Day 3, I call this practice opening space. Some of you have done it with me in other seminars. The meridians of the legs. For me, the legs are where it's at. I use the leg treatment a lot, just about every single treatment I do, partly to bring the energy down to the feet and recharge and recycle, and partly to get the legs strong and bring energy down from the head and the heart to free those areas. So this thing called opening space, something I made up probably 10 years ago, and I use it still every single treatment, more or less. It's rare I don't use it. So that'll be also a thing about How do we use our bodies? How do we use our arms? How do we use our legs? How do we use our, how do we use simple things, but in a very, very subtle way? So there's a lot built into that treatment, which is quite subtle. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. In the afternoon, we'll do the Ling Gong again, the Ling Qigong, and then we'll do something called Shen, the altar within. It will be a treatment built entirely of Shen-related points. So, okay, we're going into eternity. We're going into the existential here more clearly, more obviously. So that's day 3. Day 4, we're going to do a treatment for the neck. And the neck I call the highway to heaven. Some people call it highway to hell, but not me. Highway to heaven, because this is heaven in terms of the Chinese system, where the lower body is earth. Linking heaven and earth is really an essential part of what we do. This will be a neck treatment in 3 parts, let's say maybe 4. We'll see what we get around to. Again, investigating basic aspects of pressure, presence, and posture. After the break, we'll do the Ling Gong again, as usual, the sitting Qigong coming from the Ling. And then in the afternoon, after that, we'll be doing the Ling experience, a treatment built entirely on Ling points. And that's even more universal, even more existential, and even more eternal. So folks, that's what I got lined up for you. Hope some of you will do all 4 days with us, because you get masses out of it, of course, if you can do that. And we get to spend time together and hang out, and it's real fun. So looking forward to seeing you all very, very soon. And meantime, be good. See ya.